There's a kind of romanticism that often surrounds mental illness in the world of art, as if the more broken your mind, the greater your genius. But the truth isn't that poetic. OCD, or obsessive-compulsive disorder, is not an artistic quirk or a mysterious gift. It's a serious mental health disorder that can cripple everyday life. The symptoms of OCD go far beyond being neat or orderly. People with OCD are haunted by intrusive thoughts, unwanted, distressing obsessions that often center on morality, safety, illness, or symmetry. And to relieve the anxiety those thoughts produce, they feel compelled to perform certain rituals, often repeatedly. Imagine a painter who must wash their brushes exactly 5 times every time they touch a new color, or a writer who can't move past a single sentence until it feels just right. For many artists, OCD is both a blessing and a burden. It can create an obsession with detail that leads to astonishing work. But it can also trap the artist in a cycle of fear, doubt, and mental paralysis. The real question isn't whether OCD causes genius, but how these geniuses survive with OCD and, sometimes, turn that inner chaos into breathtaking creation. Howard Hughes, a genius imprisoned by sterilization. Howard Hughes was the real-life version of a billionaire superhero, except his kryptonite was invisible. He was a visionary filmmaker, record-setting aviator, and business magnate. But behind the grandeur, he battled severe OCD that slowly consumed his life. His obsession with germs and contamination became extreme. He hired special staff to sanitize objects in his home, rewrote instructions for handling items dozens of times, and isolated himself in dark rooms, naked, surrounded by tissues, and used bottles of urine. And yet, before the OCD fully took over, Hughes broke aviation records, designed revolutionary aircraft, and produced some of the most ambitious films of his time. He didn't just fly planes, he built them, tested them, and reimagined what human flight could look like. All while wrestling with the relentless whispers in his head, telling him everything was unsafe, unclean, or not quite right. Hughes' story isn't one of romantic madness. It's a tragedy of brilliance interrupted. He reminds us that mental illness doesn't care how rich, successful, or intelligent you are. It can take everything, but for a time he fought back, and the world remembers him not for his rituals, but for his daring. David Beckham. Symmetry, soda cans, and soccer goals. Picture this, one of the world's most iconic athletes, idolized for his confidence, skill, and charisma, completely unable to rest until every item in his hotel room is perfectly aligned. David Beckham has spoken openly about his OCD. He can't sleep if the soda cans in his fridge aren't arranged by height or in even numbers. He'll move furniture around in hotel rooms. He must color coordinate his clothes. This isn't quirky perfectionism. It's the exhausting, constant mental loop of OCD. What makes Beckham's story remarkable isn't just his talent on the field, but his courage off of it. In a sport defined by toughness and machismo, admitting you struggle with obsessive thoughts takes a different kind of strength. Beckham lives with OCD while performing at a level most athletes can only dream of. The disorder didn't disappear during game day. It was there in the rituals before matches, in the preparation, in the personal battles no fan ever saw. He's shown that strength isn't about being flawless. It's about continuing despite the invisible battles you fight every single day. Stanley Kubrick, perfect film's uneasy mind. Stanley Kubrick wasn't just a filmmaker, he was an architect of cinematic obsession. Known for his meticulous nature, Kubrick demanded actors repeat scenes dozens, even hundreds of times, in pursuit of the perfect take. To some, he was a genius. To others, he was impossible. But beneath his legendary control was something more, signs of obsessive-compulsive behavior. Kubrick controlled every detail, from the color of a wall to the exact angle of a shadow. He often spent years preparing a single project, poring over elements most viewers wouldn't even notice. His perfectionism wasn't just a style, it was a symptom. His mind refused to rest until every piece clicked into place. The anxiety of imperfection haunted him, pushing him towards cinematic greatness, but often isolating him in the process. Yet, despite the torment, he gave us The Shining, 2001, A Space Odyssey, and A Clockwork Orange, films that remain unmatched in depth and design. Kubrick's story isn't about OCD fueling creativity, it's about someone who carried a storm in his head and still managed to build entire worlds on screen. Charles Darwin, Evolution, Experimentation, and Endless Fear. Charles Darwin, father of evolution, enemy of comfort. For decades, Darwin kept detailed records not only of finches and fossils, but of every twitch, tremor, and stomach ache he experienced. Historians believe he suffered from an anxiety-related condition, possibly OCD, which manifested in obsessive health monitoring and an overwhelming fear of public scrutiny. He avoided social gatherings, stuck to rigid routines, and delayed publishing on the origin of species for over 20 years out of fear, guilt, and obsessive doubt. Yet, in his private torment, Darwin revolutionized science. His obsession with collecting, comparing, rechecking, and classifying was part compulsion, part scientific method. His need for absolute certainty, though exhausting, ensured that his theories were so thoroughly tested that they still hold up today. Darwin shows us that mental suffering and scientific discovery can coexist, not because suffering is noble, but because perseverance is. His battle wasn't against the world, but against himself. And he still changed the world forever. Fiona Apple, Songs from a Mind That Won't Stop Spinning. Fiona Apple doesn't write songs. She exorcises them. Her lyrics are raw, poetic, and often come from a place of intense mental noise. Apple has lived with OCD since childhood. She described it as a mind that won't stop spinning, fixating on phrases, rituals, or fears. She's had phases of compulsive behavior, like rereading lines in books for hours, or engaging in repetitive motion until she felt safe. But instead of hiding it, Fiona Apple turns her OCD into art. Her music, strange, beautiful, deeply emotional, is filled with loops, rhythms, and themes that reflect a brain in overdrive. Songs like Every Single Night don't just sound like emotional confessions, they feel like internal monologues spilling out through melody. Her vulnerability is not performance. It's survival. Fiona proves that a noisy mind doesn't need to be silenced to be powerful, it just needs a microphone. Billie Eilish, New Generation, Old Story. Billie Eilish is a product of a new era where mental health isn't a hidden shame, but part of the conversation. But that doesn't make her struggle any less real. Billie has OCD, Tourette's, and a history of depression. Her OCD manifests in counting, order, symmetry, and a constant internal pressure to get things just right. And yet, she's become one of the most defining voices of her generation. Her music is minimalist, eerie, haunting, often mirroring the quiet tension of intrusive thoughts. Visually, her videos carry a strange blend of precision and surrealism, like an OCD dream world. Billie speaks openly about her mental health, not for attention, but to help others feel less alone. She represents a shift. Instead of hiding disorders in the shadows, she brings them to the main stage, lit with neon and honesty. Her story is proof that you don't need to be fixed to be phenomenal. So, does OCD create greatness? No. But many great people have created despite their OCD. The artists we've talked about weren't brilliant because of their disorder, but their brilliance came through it. They created not as an escape from their minds, but as a way to survive them. Howard Hughes flew through fear. Beckham played through obsession. Fiona and Billie sang through spirals. Kubrick filmed through neurosis. Darwin cataloged the universe while his own thoughts tried to consume him. What unites them isn't perfection, but resilience. They remind us that a messy, anxious, complicated brain doesn't make you broken, it makes you human. And sometimes, that humanity becomes art. Disclaimer. This video is for educational and inspirational purposes only. The information presented here is based on public interviews, biographies, and mental health studies. Each person's experience with OCD is unique. If you or someone you know is struggling with OCD or other mental health conditions, please seek help from a licensed mental health professional.